Dylan Harper just announced himself to the league. This was a much closer game than a 12-point margin of victory would suggest. Things very nearly went a different way as Portland was in the driver's seat for the majority of the game. Even with Denny having another down night, offensively Portland was thriving with Holiday leading the way and Scoot Henderson being his right-hand man. It wasn't enough ultimately as the Blazers ran out of gas, but had Denny had an efficient night, we could have had a very different outcome. The Spurs playing without Wemby had a very different vibe early on. Although Kornet is a more than suitable center, he is simply no Wemby, and they do lose a lot of offensive firepower by not having Victor out there, not to mention the role he plays on defense. So San Antonio did look a little unsure of themselves with no Wemby to lead the way, although they did eventually pull it together, settled into the game, started hitting some shots, locking down on defense. All the things that you expect them to do when Wemby is on the floor, but it was still nice to see them be able to do that in a playoff setting with no Wemby to set the tone. De'Aaron Fox really did not play his best game. He was fine, but as their kind of de facto leader tonight, he didn't step up in the way they would have needed for a win. So it was great that the rest of the guys stepped up, got the job done with no Wemby and Fox not having his best showing. Colossal second half for the Spurs, and they absolutely don't win this game without Dylan Harper. Stephon Castle was the leading scorer, but Harper was the best player on the floor tonight and had evidently been itching for an opportunity for some big minutes, which he received with the Spurs in need. A lot of people have been saying that he could have been in contention for Rookie of the Year had he simply not been drafted by a team like San Antonio that doesn't need him to be in a starter role. Coming off the bench, he was never going to be in contention for it, but tonight he did prove what he can do when given the opportunity. Wasn't the smoothest of wins for San Antonio, especially as Portland started the game hot from three and really just playing some good fundamental basketball, in spite of Denny now being a relative no-show for back-to-back games. But the Blazers could not hold it together. San Antonio was ready to seize control when the opportunity came, and it did come in that second half when they really started to pull away with it, and Portland simply does not know how to respond in that situation against a team like San Antonio that is full of a lot of freak athletes as well as some knockdown three-point shooters. We're not sure yet whether Wemby will be back for Game 4 or not. They proved tonight that they don't necessarily need him to dispatch this Trailblazer squad, but it would undoubtedly be nice to have him back sooner than later. Either way, I have the Spurs advancing in 5. If Denny is going to be as much of a no-show as he has been these last 2 games, it's going to be very difficult for Portland to pull out another win. Game 2 was a very close-fought battle. Game 3 was closer until the end of the game, where San Antonio really executed perfectly down the stretch. Portland cannot be relying on Jrue Holiday to be their number 1 offensive weapon. Scoot Henderson stepped up and filled that role in Game 2. He tried doing a similar thing tonight, slightly worse efficiency. He still had a very good game, but Portland simply needs Denny to be that guy if they want to steal another win at this point in the series. I don't think it's going to happen. I have Spurs in 5.